The day you learned there was a wrong answer. When was the last time you had an idea that made absolutely no sense? Not because it was useful, not because it was right, just because it was interesting. Children do this every day. Point at a cloud and they'll tell you it's a dragon, or a whale, or a giant piece of popcorn. They don't hesitate, because they're not looking for the right answer yet. They're simply imagining. But somewhere along the way, most of us stop. The strange part is, almost nobody remembers exactly when. In the 1960s, an engineer named George Land was working on a test designed to measure creative thinking. It was originally developed to help NASA identify exceptionally creative engineers. Then, Land became curious. What would happen if children took the same test? The results appeared remarkable. Young children consistently produced far more creative responses than adults. The exact numbers from those studies have been debated ever since. But the question they left behind has never gone away. Why does creative thinking seem so effortless in childhood, yet so difficult in adulthood? For decades, people believed creativity was something you were born with. Either you had it or you didn't. But modern psychology suggests something very different. Children aren't necessarily more imaginative. They simply reject fewer of their ideas. Ask a child, what could this cardboard box become? A spaceship, a submarine, a robot, a castle? Ask an adult the same question. Most people hesitate, not because they can't imagine, because they're already searching for the correct answer. And that's where everything changes. Creativity doesn't disappear the moment you stop having ideas. It begins to disappear the moment you start judging those ideas before they have a chance to exist. Psychologists describe this as the difference between divergent thinking and convergent thinking. Divergent thinking asks, what else could this be? Convergent thinking asks, which answer is correct? Both are essential. Without convergent thinking, we couldn't build bridges, perform surgery, or write software. But if that were all we used, many of humanity's greatest ideas would never have been born.
There's a simple experiment that demonstrates this perfectly. Imagine you're given a candle, a box of thumbtacks, and a book of matches. Your task is simple. Attach the candle to the wall without letting the wax drip onto the table. Most people fail, not because they lack intelligence, because they see the box as nothing more than a container for thumbtacks. The solution is to empty the box, pin it to the wall, and use it as a shelf for the candle. Nothing about the objects changed, only the way people looked at them. Psychologists call this functional fixedness. As our brains become better at recognizing what something is, they gradually become worse at seeing what it could become. The same thing happens with our ideas. An idea appears. Just as it's beginning to grow, another voice quietly interrupts. That's unrealistic. Someone has already done that. People will laugh. And the idea disappears. Not because it was impossible, but because it was never given permission to exist. Neuroscientists have found that creativity depends on a balance between different brain networks. Some generate possibilities, others evaluate them. Children tend to spend more time creating. Adults tend to spend more time editing. Neither system is wrong. The real challenge is knowing which one should lead and when. Sometimes you have to silence the editor just long enough to let the creator speak. At the beginning of this video, I asked when we stop imagining. Maybe that was the wrong question. Maybe imagination never left. Maybe we simply became experts at rejecting our own ideas. And perhaps the biggest difference between a child and an adult isn't intelligence, it isn't knowledge, it isn't experience. It's this. A child asks, what if? An adult asks, what if I'm wrong? And sometimes, the only thing standing between an ordinary life and an idea that could change the world is the difference between those two questions.